Welcome. I'm Larry Olsen, and this is the Brain Vault Podcast. Did you know that the thoughts you're thinking right now are shaping the life you'll live tomorrow? Well, in this podcast, we just don't talk about mindset. We decode the blueprint behind behavior, performance, and possibility. This is where science meets real-world strategy, and your brain stops running on autopilot. If you're ready to turn default thinking into intentional living, you're in the right place. Well, I want to welcome all of you to the Brain Vault Podcast, where science meets success. And let me open up with this question for you. What if the reason your business can't scale isn't your team, your strategy, or your market, but you? Because at a certain level of success, something starts to happen. The very person who built the company becomes the one holding it back. Not because they're not capable, but because the way they think, decide, and operate hasn't evolved as the same speed as the business itself. And today's guest has lived that reality. Rajesh Nagjee isn't just a CEO mentor. He's what he calls a business physicist. He built a company, burned out running it, nearly lost everything, and that breakthrough point became the foundation for the work he does today. Now, after 30 plus years and working with over 350 CEOs across 15 countries, he helps founders solve what he calls the founder bottleneck. That moment when a company's ready to scale, but still depends on the founder for decisions, clarity, and stability. He's also the creator of CEO Freedom OS, a leadership architecture designed to help CEOs scale, and this is so important, without losing control. Something most leaders struggle to reconcile. Because here's the truth. Growth doesn't fail because of effort. It fails because of how leaders think about control, delegation, and identity. Rajesh, welcome to the Brain Vault Podcast.
Larry, brilliant to have you say all those amazing things, kind of said goosebumps in my spine. You just spoke about the 30 years that I've lived.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you feel that way. Hey, let's start with this question. When did you first realize that you weren't just leading the business, you'd actually become the bottleneck inside your own success?
There was an epiphany that happened twice over. The first was 1987, when I realized that I was working very, very long hours. And in 89 is when I got the mule kick. I lost everything. My father passed. I got divorced. And, my business was almost bankrupt. And obviously, when all of these things happened, I was kind of like a ship on the waters without a steering or a rudder or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started doing some very hard thinking. It took me a while to figure out that, I had all the skills, the knowledge, the ability to build, to organize. But a time comes when there's just so much you can hold in your hands. It's like, you go to a grand buffet and there's amazing food and you take a plate and you start piling up and you realize, hey, that's all you can handle. But, in business, because it's not physical, you believe you can handle it all. And I was just kind of, so that was a moment when I started. It was obviously the lowest time in my life. And I realized one day I'd built a hospital, and I realized that I was working 14, 16 hours a day, and I was the chief problem solver. So that
Okay.
is what stuck in my mind. That I have hired competent, capable people, and they hired me right back to solve all the problems. They kept running to me. I felt good, very competent, but it's not sustainable.
But that became your identity, would you say? The
Uh,
problem solver.
oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was something that I thrived on. I loved it, and
You were good at it.
I was as good at it. And what do I know about hospital? I'm not a doctor, and and I was doing all the things and getting them all right to save life, except my own.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. What an aha moment.
Yeah.
So here you have leaders who have a lot of them are founders as well, grown their own company, rock and rolled. And the larger they got, the more difficult it became. And you've kind of classified it too, which I think is fascinating, as our identity, as we see who we see ourselves, how we show up, what it is that we know that we bring to the party, what we're good at. And yet, why do you think most leaders don't recognize that, the old adage, if you want to see the problem, look in the mirror? That's easy to say, but why do you think most leaders struggle with recognizing that they just might be the problem? And even if you can get them to identify that, how do they open up to what's the solution?
I mean, your question is so brilliant that I can take it in four, five, six different ways. So
Good.
let me try a couple, and let's see which one works best for us. So the first and foremost, there's a law in ontology which states that recognition produces a fixed way of being. So
Okay.
who you recognize yourself to be then creates a fixed way in which you be, you do, and what you have. And if you take pride in that recognition, now you're locked there. Like I was locked as the chief problem solver, and I loved it. And, as to kind of everybody would say, wow, man, this guy just cracked it in, just off the bat and so on. So that kind of feeds itself. And that recognition is what is the fundamental starting point. So the first question when I start working with business owners, I keep listening very, very astutely to how they like to be introduced. What is it that they say about themselves? What do they feel good about? And that's the starting point because
Yeah.
that tells me the story of where they are locked. So
Yeah.
I don't look for what is wrong or what's missing. I don't look for the things that they're doing wrong. I'm looking for things that they're thrilled about
Mm.
themselves. And
Hmm.
that's really where the real trouble is. So if you can just sort of sit back, if you're a founder, just sit back and say, okay, how do you like, to be introduced or acknowledged? And what is that costing you? Is it
Mm.
costing you your child's football match? Is it costing you dinner with your parents? Is it costing you any of those things? Then it's a very, very heavy price you're paying for whatever you're very proud about. Because that's not why you started the business. You started the business for your economic necessities and at the same time to enjoy life with your loved ones. So it's a very soft and a very gentle request that look at everything that you are thrilled about and see what you're paying for it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You said something that I think is profound, and that is what you recognize is what you end up identifying with, and how it becomes your identity. And isn't it true in quantum physics? that what you focus on, that's when it stops. That's when all of this activity, it's almost what is the flaw in any kind of an experiment is the one who's doing the experiment because of the biases that they bring, the mindsets that they already have. And for someone like yourself, in a very gentle fashion, to have them recognize that aha moment of, wow, I don't love what I'm doing anymore. I love what I do, but what I've become now, and you put it at such a cost. I mean, what has this done to my health? What has this done to my ability to spend time with my family, to show up for a game? Just all these little elements that we kind of overlook because part of our identity is, because of me, I'm allowing them to have all of these opportunities. And I got to keep driving and I'll get through this because that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit. I'll handle it. Where is that moment of, okay, so they've identified now this is what's costing me. Where do you take them then?
You already segued into that in everything that you just offered before this, and you use the word experiment in quantum physics. The fundamental of an experiment is that there are certain conditions that are required for any experiment to really be an experiment. So the first is there's got to be some phenomena that's unfolding, and there's got to be an observer who's independent of that phenomena. If that observer is part of the phenomena, the experiment fails.
Okay.
So as founders,
Hmm.
they all the time in what they consider to be experiments in their own companies, but they're the founders. They are the ones who move pieces by just a look. So in quantum physics, the first experiment that they did was when they were observing the quantum, the observer got a thought that what happens if the smallest unit of energy shifts northeast? And immediately it shifted. And then said, what happens if it shifts south? It immediately shifted south. The experiment failed. So
Wow.
this is what is happening for founders is that they ask questions, they're trying to observe what's going on, why this didn't happen, why that's not happening, why this customer is not happy. Then he gives people a look and energy passes. And the moment that energy passes, the whole inquiry, the whole experiment has failed. So
Hmm.
the point really here is how do you know, your question is that once you have identified your fixed way of being, once you've identified what is it costing you, what's next? Well, what's next is welcome to the horror story. That's what's next. Buy popcorn, sit down, have a Coke, enjoy your life because you're stuck and there's no way out.
Hmm.
And you know why there's no way out? Because people don't want out.
Oh. Oh.
You know, they
They think
find,
they think they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or that's what they end
well,
up doing.
the point is they always trade-offs, right? So do I want to spend time with my wife who's upset with me, or should I
Mm.
stay in the office 2 hours longer and avoid that?
Wow. Wow.
That's a trade-off, right? Now I
Yep.
already know all this stuff. I realize that it's costing me this, but and she got angry with me yesterday, and I really want to, punish her in silence. All that kind of
Yeah.
stupid, small, little
The
things. I
the
want to get
devil
eat.
I the devil I knows better than the devil I don't, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then my teenage son is always rude. So when he's rude, I don't want to go. I don't
Yeah.
feel good. So
Yeah.
these are the kind of things that we don't realize that we're taking the wrong calls.
Mhm.
And when you start taking those wrong calls and you start succeeding in business, that's a deadly combination.
Mhm. Mhm.
I worked with one of the most brilliant industrialists, the 35th richest Indian. And 35th richest Indian is not a small feat.
Hmm.
And that gentleman had everything to show in terms of the fruits of success. But his older son left him, went away, lived in another country. The younger son was very difficult. His wife lives in another house. He's all alone.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that a life well spent?
Yeah. Yeah. That's I really love where we're going with this, because what you're saying, and this is what so many people miss, is their own power of influence. Einstein, he once said that the question you need to ask yourself is everything a miracle or there are no miracles? But here was the key. He goes, but you've got to answer the question first, then find the evidence. Because if you're looking for the evidence now, just like you said, you've already created this bias. You've already decided what it is you want, the experiment to do. Your original opening premise was, I'm going to prove this. Well, hey, statistics can prove anything. So it takes an intervention. And this is where you come into play. It takes someone who's got the credibility, who you can't deny that doesn't know what he's talking about, because otherwise, why should I listen to you, right? Most CEOs and leaders have been there, done that. And yet you come in this gentle yet passionate, dramatic, and in your face in a loving way, because that's what I feel from you. To take a look at what's happening in your life, and what they don't realize sometimes is that relationship at home can change, that it doesn't have to be constant bickering because you're the one who's coming home late all the time, or you're the one who's not making the dinner, or you're the one who's letting the person down. I know you're not a psychologist, but you are. Um, but how do you help this person get unstuck from their own belief system they spent all these years developing? And we all know the brain's all about predictability, and it just wants to keep proving us right, whether what makes us successful or not. So what is you're the magic, if you will, the elixir, the sense of your soul and spirit that causes to get their attention?
Larry, let me share a real life example
Okay.
that just happened a few days back. The unfortunate war situation has created havoc in the economy in Dubai. And I was working with one of my clients, and he was whining about everything that's going wrong, and so stressed out, and cash flows, and behind in salaries. And I mean, this is a normal story today in Dubai. So I said, listen, you know, I'm probably going to give you 6 months. This is your sentence. In 6 months' time, you're extinct.
Mhm.
You don't have
Mhm.
anything in you. I don't see uh, anything that's redeeming, because in this kind of a situation, uh, if I am the owner of the company, and if you're my paid professional CEO, I would fire you right now, because you're completely resourceless. You're lost, and you don't have any resilience, and you're kind of stuck at the intersection of the past and present, whining. Why is it? It shouldn't be. It can't be. Why me? What did I do wrong? So, how are you going to deal with all the things that are in front of you and craft strategies and tactics to move forward? You don't have any clear mental space.
Mhm.
So, I don't want you as my CEO unless you're willing to do what I ask you to do. But I don't think you will.
Mhm.
Well, if I say it, I'm not taking it off the table. You don't want to waste my time. So if you ask me politely, I'll say it. And then he goes, yeah, tell me what. I said, okay, I need you to spend half an hour every day, quality time with your 3-year-old son.
Mm. Mm.
And that's part one. Part two is he's going to lead what you guys are going to do. You can't lead and you can't do double, you know, what's the word? Dual tasking. You can't do that. You got to, be with them. So he goes, so listen, that guy believes in you. And no amount of money and no amount of success and no amount of failures is going to shake that guy's belief in you.
Hmm.
And if you can tune into that energy, that's the source of your resilience. That's the CEO I want.
Hmm.
That's the CEO I want in my command seat. You do this and you see what starts to happen. So this guy's like shell shocked. He said, I'm talking about my million dirham deal and you're telling me to go waste time. I said, yeah, either this is the beginning of the rest of our time together or this is our last conversation. You pick, you choose. So this is what I learned from Mother Teresa. I had the good fortune of meeting her.
Did you?
Yeah, and I was absolutely taken aback because her persona is compassion.
Mm.
Mother Teresa has compassion. The whole world knows that. But her presence was anything but compassion.
Yeah. Hmm.
Very ruthless. And I couldn't figure it out till I realized 3-4 days after I met her is that compassion lives in her ruthless being. She plays a no mercy game. And that's why our organization functions the way it functions and offers so much of compassionate help and support.
Hmm.
So I said, let me pick that up.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
this was a direct tribute to Mother Teresa. I was being absolutely ruthless in my compassion. In my heart, there's total
Wow.
compassion, but at the edge of my scalpel is ruthlessness. I'm willing to take cuts. And that's what he needed at that point. And that it just shook him up, got him out of
Yeah.
that misery.
Yeah. Well, you really nailed something with the passion, compassion, but the ruthlessness. And the ruthlessness to me means I'm not going to let you think less of yourself.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And and the fact that most of us, when we get into a tough spot, as you're well aware, and there's books written about it, take the path of least resistance. We always leave ourselves an escape route. And and that's usually an excuse that we come up with, which, as you know, makes us a victim, and victims have no power. Just like you were sharing with that guy, whining, and you were being ruthless with him. You were saying, "I'm not going to accept you giving up on you," and then overlooking a 3-year-old son that all he wants from you is some acknowledgement, for crying out loud, and you can't find 30 minutes. If you did a good job with 30 seconds, you'd accomplished a lifetime. So where does come inside of you? I mean, not everybody gets a chance to meet Mother Teresa, for crying out loud. But what do you think it is about you that, the combination of all of this, and where was your ruthlessness that drove you into the hours and hours of study and the give sacrifices you had to make in your own personal life to what do you think the origin of that was for you, that where you were just like, I'm not letting anything stand in my way, because you're also a very compassionate soul. I mean, I can see it and feel it in you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my father coined a statement when I was probably about 2 years old. And he enrolled my mother into that statement, and both of them kept saying that over and over and over. And it took me 55 years to decode it. And that statement was that the moment you decide, you will succeed. And that is the source of my success. The moment you decide, you'll succeed. So let's break this up. And what did I discover after 55 years is that number one, he Teflon coated me. So failure doesn't stick. Whenever I've failed, and I've failed a bunch, I would say, yeah, I haven't decided.
Mm.
And the moment I say that, the possibility of deciding opens up. And the moment I decide, now I'm programmed to succeed.
Mm.
And the ultimate success formula in this original form that I got from my father is don't stop till you succeed.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Decide, start, don't stop till you succeed. And every time I succeed, my father wins.
That's beautiful. That is really powerful. And it's simple. It's so simple. It's brilliant. It's because it's about, it's almost like when people will say, why do you believe so much in people, Larry? And my answer is always because the option is unacceptable. Right? Why would you give up on another human being? And that's what you're basically telling them. If you're not willing to handle this, then we're not a fit. I mean, it's not negotiated. This is it. And because you've chosen to succeed at that, nothing in your soul, your spirit, your facial expressions, your body language, your tone of voice contradicts it. And to me, that is what true authenticity is all about.
Yeah.
And I can see why you're so successful. And you're the kind of guy, too, that learns from his failures rather than decides to go out and repeat them again. But sometimes we end up doing that. So let me ask you this. There's a lot of people listening to this right now, turning it up, I'm sure, who've got a lot of stuff going on in their life. And like you said earlier, the brain can't multitask. I mean, it can only focus on one thing at a time. The mind can have many things going on. And so there's a mindset about, yeah, but he doesn't know what I'm going through. I can see where he would be successful. He's a doctor, and he's got all these clients and he's living in Dubai and, whatever we need is an excuse to say, but you don't know me. What would you suggest for them to kind of help them open up their eyes a little bit? You already have shared so many powerful things. To kind of break away from that little tiny boat that they've made a life out of, that they're clinging to now. And then also, how do they go about reaching out to you?
Oh, that's such an interesting question, and there are so many answers that are coming to my mind. But I think I'll start with the 5 default states of survival. Each one of us, as we go through life, we get upset, hurt, disappointed, let down, cheated, all the rest of it. And slowly, 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 we learn to survive. So there are little bridges that we make to get to the other side. Because this side is where failure was, or upset, whatever. And we go to the other side, and these bridges, there are 5 of them. One of them is we become cynical, we become skeptical, we become resigned, we even become cocky and arrogant. So anything that I'm saying, if you want to survive and stay in your same state, immediate response will be like an auto rocket. Your cynicism, skepticism, resignation, cockiness, arrogance comes in. How does he know? He's got this, that, and the other. He's in Dubai, he's driving a fancy car. He doesn't know my reality. Right, I don't. But my question is, I don't need to know, but do you know your reality? That's the real question. And your reality is very, very simple. It's just a matter of 2 or 3 statements. Number one, check where you're standing. Are you standing in a place called there is something wrong here? There's something wrong with me. And that's a bottomless pit you'll never ever come out of. Versus a place called there is nothing wrong here. This is it. And I need to fix it. Simple example, you're traveling and you're on time for your appointment. Suddenly you get a flat tire. Now you come out, it's a very important meeting, and you start kicking the tire and said, come on, man, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong with me. Why me? Get to this is it. There's nothing wrong here. What's the fix? Put the car on one side, get recovery to take it, and then move on. So the point is the choice between there's something wrong here, something wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong here, and I'll figure it out. That's the first starting point to move forward. What people have lost in the default survival states is they are stuck at the intersection of the past and present where they are whining. And what will get them moving forward is possibilities, new openings, and that resides at the intersection of the present and future. But you got to take it on. It's a map. It's very clear. Draw these 3 circles, put them together, intersection, past and present, intersection, present and future. Put your finger on that intersection and you start bitching, moaning, whining. And that's the language that belongs there. That's not the language of possibilities, cynical, skeptical, resigned, cocky, arrogant. That's that intersection. There's something wrong here. That's that intersection. In this intersection, there's nothing wrong here. This is it. Let's get started. And you'll find new openings. Take one small, tiny step. And then the next one small, tiny step. And then the next one small, tiny step. There's never a second step. There's always one step, then the one step, then the one step with a beginner's mind.
Wow.
So this is try to it. I do it even. I've been working with this for ages with my clients. When I get stuck, I just go and draw these circles and I go and with a red pen, keep circling and whining and moaning and getting it out of my system and say, yeah, I love it. There's something wrong here, something wrong with everybody. I got it out. Toxins are out. Then I go with a green pen there and said, okay, time to get started. But I only give myself no more than 5 minutes there.
Yeah.
But 5 minutes of complete blast. If anybody in the room, they say this guy is off his rockers. I don't want to work with this guy. He's screaming and shouting and then the next moment. So it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh. And it's also a great opportunity to let the amygdala win out. And then, as we all know, when that amygdala takes over, it shuts the frontal lobes down. And what you do is you allow it to dump. And then that moment you say, what does this moment have to offer? How can I succeed here? you've now told it, the Bengal tigers are gone. You're free now to think clearly. And I love the next step is the first step. I love that. Or you know what happens? People start, well, I've taken 20 steps.
Yeah.
How many more steps do I have to take? Just one. Right. I love it. I love it. How do people, you are wonderful, by the way.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And how do people, Najesh, how do they get a hold of you? How do they reach out to your company or you or what, however?
I think the easiest way is to connect with me on LinkedIn because I post regularly.
Okay.
And what I do is I post to serve. I don't post to impress.
Okay.
And I post to serve by sharing every stupid mistake I've made in my life. You know,
Beautiful.
so
Yep.
under my watch, I don't want you to make that same mistake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one. And from there, they can connect, they can message me, or my email address is written right here. So they can reach out from there, or my website is rajeshnagji.com. Different ways,
Yeah. Beautiful.
and
Beautiful.
the thing is, I really love it when the right people reach out,
Mhm.
because I've got a lot I can offer, but I can't be hired.
Gotcha.
I got to fall in love with the spirit of the person.
Beautiful. Boy,
Yeah.
isn't that the truth? Isn't that the
Yeah.
truth? You remember your old days when you wish you could fire your client? You know, you took them on for the wrong reasons. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that we all learn is if it hopefully, um, and then that becomes the best relationship and it keeps it fun. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. Neither one of us, I think, work for a living.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Larry.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure having this opportunity. And I thank you for niching out some of your time at, as late as it is for you. Um, So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like everyone in the audience to take a moment for yourself and have a little pity party. But give yourself a timer and don't let it go on forever. Take a few moments and then do it. Now Hej has just shared with us and that is where are the opportunities now. What can I get excited about? And however you phrase it, you can't ask a question without getting an answer. That's what's so wonderful about our brain. It's just asking the right question. And I think that's the choice that we're both talking about today, and we all have that choice. So thanks again. You had all kinds of options as to who you could listen to, and you chose to listen to Nahesh and myself, and we're honored for that opportunity. And I really loved your statement about I post to serve. Beautiful. Um, so remember, wherever you find yourself is exactly where you need to be. And that's the only time any of us have in this thing called life is this moment. So make it magnificent, enjoy for what it is. And I know you're going to have yourself a wonderful next moment. Thank you all, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.